guys, and welcome to my March middle grade wrap up. So I did do like 12 of my books wrap up, which is going out before this, and then my middle grade one is here. And I think I predicted like 7 middle grade reads, and I didn't get to all of them. One of them took me way longer than I thought, so I didn't get to the other ones, but I read 4 out of 7. So I didn't get to 3 of them, but I still put them in like my TBR pile for the year, and hopefully I get to the rest of them because I'm excited about them. I will start with the first 2, which are the classics. And so I'm going to start with Anne of Green Gables because I have a million little copies of these. These 2 are beautiful. This Ooseburn one is the one I wanted to read, and I started it, but it's just so heavy to read. Like, you'd have to sit at a desk to read it. So I finished with this one, which I think I've read this I don't know. Yeah, and this is like the original copy I owned from forever ago. Anyways, Anne of Green Gables, as we all know, is adorable and it's cute, and it's about a girl who gets adopted by a family out on this island in Canada, and she's just, it's a story about like, it's a story about like little kids, not little kids, because we probably do this as adults, but we don't get in trouble, but just like all the little skiffs you get into as a little kid, and sometimes you get so angry and you're like, I'm always getting into trouble. That is what Anne of Green Gables to me is about. It's funny and hilarious, and this girl can talk so much and rattle on so much, and it's really good, and it's just about all the little problems you get on and how everything is always two-sided, and there's always 2 sides to a story, and how she's always trying to get out of these things or come up with ways that she wasn't really in trouble, but then she gets herself into more trouble. I don't know. But yeah, I'd highly recommend these. All 4 books I absolutely loved. Absolutely loved all 4 books. The next one was, that one was like my read. I picked this one because I hadn't read it last year and had put it on my TBR to reread or something. Or classic for last year. I think it was a challenge, and I did Anne of Green Gables, but I didn't get around to it last year. That's how it ended up on my list this year. And then this year I chose The Hobbit because it was for like the challenge of somebody who's not human, and obviously hobbits aren't human. You know, that guy looks very human, right? So yeah, this is just the adventure of Bilbo Baggins. We've all heard it. Or you've seen the movie. The movie closely follows this, but doesn't follow it sometimes. Like, there's like major scenes that aren't in this book kind of thing. But yeah, The Hobbit follows him and these dwarves and Gandalf the wizard, of course, and he gets pushed into this adventure he doesn't necessarily want to go on. Of course he goes on it, and all these things happen all the time, but I listened to the audiobook. I want to talk a little bit more about that. I had listened to it, and then me and my daughter were reading it, and then she didn't really want to read it this month, so I just went back and listened to the audiobook because I had never listened to the audiobook all the way through, and it was just cute and so lovely, and it's like 4 hours to listen to the audiobook. It's so easy. I think they're just like done in 1-hour clips from the radio. I don't know if there's like newer versions, but I listened to like the old school radio version where they like acted out The Hobbit, and it's adorable and cute, and there's like music. So easy. And every time I read this or like listen to it or whatever, I always I'm impressed with the fantasy level. Like, I'm always like, that is truly fantasy written for children. Like, when I think of like, when people say like Harry Potter is a children's book and stuff, like, I'm like always just like, is it? But and The Hobbit really, really is. It's really written for children, and it's easy and clear writing, but such an adventure. Like, so many different cool characters in here. Absolutely loved it. Now for the 2 more like interesting ones, I guess you would say. I'll do the other one last, but this one I'm gonna put up just a review by itself on, was Rules by Cynthia Lloyd. I always say Lloyd when I see this book. Absolutely love this book. It was a Newbery honor, and I thought it was a Scholastic winner. I kept saying that. It says it's a Schneider family book. Anyways, really, really, really good. Absolutely loved it. Rules is about a young girl. What is her name? Catherine. It is about a young girl named Catherine, and she's writing out these rules. And like every chapter is kind of like a new rule, and she's supposedly writing these rules for her autistic brother. But it actually like is helping her learn about life, though, like more of like little life lessons for herself. And then her brother goes to this clinic to help him deal with his emotions that he doesn't know how to express. And at the clinic, she meets a boy who's paraplegic, and she's like, I think, romantically interested in him a little bit. I think she's like 14 in this book, maybe. And then Jason is a really cool character, and she like ends up writing cards for him because that's how he speaks. He points to cards, and she ends up like making cards for him that more of a teen would want to use, not just like simpler words. And then also a girl moves in next door, Christy, and that's where like the drama comes in, I guess, because Christy is what she considers normal, but Christy is also going through stuff herself. Her parents have separated at the time, and Christy is upfront with all of her problems, but Catherine does not want to be upfront. Like, she wants that part of her life supposedly to be normal, and so she wants to keep it separate, and so she doesn't tell her all the way about Jason, or she keeps it, like, tries to stay hidden that her brother's autistic and everything. And so when her like lives kind of collide and everything, and her friend is like, hey, you should have told me, you should have been honest with me, I've been honest with you and everything, that's what the whole story is about. But it was cute and is wonderfully done. My daughter read like half of it to me in like an hour, and then she like got up and left because she was done, and I read like the other half in an hour and a half maybe. I don't know. Such a quick read. I thought the author did a wonderful job at like writing as a child's perspective. Like, it was spot on. I completely believed it was a child the whole time. The story is so cute and wonderful. I absolutely loved it, and I'd highly recommend it. And now the last book for middle grade reads. The last book I'm a little unsure of because I heard somebody say it and I was like, hey, I have read that. Like, I had started reading it in January, so I put it on my list, and I don't remember what challenge this was for, but I put the Librarian of Auschwitz on my list. And it's quite, absolutely love the book, wouldn't recommend it enough, but it is quite, I don't know how to say this, violent, I guess, and gruesome, of what I was like prepared for middle grade. And I knew it was a book about Auschwitz, but I thought it was more of like, I guess the author talks about it as more of like a cultural piece, like, because the librarian, Edita, she like risked her life to like have these books for these children, and like she sewed in these little pockets and put the books in her pockets and put them on her armpits and everything. But I thought it was so well done, but it is far more violent than a lot of the children middle grade reads. Like, it is spot on for like some of the YA stuff I've read and adult stuff, but I'm gonna tell you, it's like gruesome. There's like bodily fluids, and there's a lot of deaths, and then children's death, and it goes in the beginning, closer to the beginning, I guess. It is pretty high in detail about the gas chambers and the showers and how they got rid of the bodies and dismantled them and everything. Like, one person goes into like detail because that's his job. And so it's far more gruesome. So I'm not sure about this as a middle grade read, unless your middle grade reader has read a lot and is an advanced reader. It's definitely written simply enough for a middle grade to read, but it is also at the same time very long. I do love that it was written simply because it was written by a journalist. The book was by Antonio, I can't say his last name. You can read it. Like, I even tried mimicking it after the audiobook, and I couldn't. Like, it's just, Ibuta, I don't know how to say his last name, but, and then also, so the whole book, though, the reason why I loved it, it's about a girl who's like 14, 15, I think, through towards the end of the war, and it's about her going to the Terezin ghetto and then to Auschwitz. And I had heard about like parts of these things from like history classes, I guess you'd say. Like, obviously knew about Auschwitz, and I knew that like in some camps they had like propped up these like fake areas where like if the Red Cross was investigating, that it wouldn't look like they're like creating mass genocide. So this is what the block she was in, was block 31, was like one of these faked propped up areas where the children weren't like killed until like maybe after the Red Cross would come or something like that. And then they kind of let them go about their day, and there was like an instructor there, and I'd heard about the instructor's name before, and then he set up like everything, like the schooling they did, which was secretive. Like, they risked their lives to like school these children and teach them songs and tell them stories, and then he set up like all the sports activities and all the little like sports events they would do, and all the running they would do around. They didn't have like things to do stuff with, but you know, like the running they would do and just like little matches they would do. He set up all of that and ran the little block. And then also the other one I heard about too in it, and they kept calling him Rudy, was the registrar guy, and I was like, I bet that's Rudolph, because he's like one of the more famous names I know that came out of Auschwitz, because he's one of the few and only people that escaped and like lived to tell the tale. And I knew his name probably because he's the one that came out and gave like all the statistics, being the registrar, and he came out and said they've killed nearly 1 million lives so far, and I know this because of this, and he gave like very explicit details, and then he even went to like London and did the whole thing over again. And I thought it was fascinating and so good, and as a fictional piece, it was really done well, I think, historically researched, and even at the end, I didn't want to go in it and like Google, but I did detail like Liv, the librarian, and so I didn't want to know. I waited till the end, and but even when he talks about all the interviews he did and who he talked to and everything, and then they also give you just like bits of history, like maybe you've forgotten or something from history class, or just things you didn't know, and they tell you about like the camp guy of Auschwitz and everything. I thought all that stuff was super fascinating. I loved that stuff just as much as I loved the main story, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was a really good piece. It's just, for me, I thought the only thing I ever thought during it was, oh man, that's why I put it down in January, because I was like, I'm on the mood for this, because it made me cry once, and it made me cry so many times. But it just, it is, I think, far more gruesome than I was expecting, or more violent than I was expecting for that grade level. If I had picked it up off of an adult shelf or something, and not had thought about the age limit, I would have thought it was just, like, I would never have thought that. But I absolutely loved it. Wouldn't recommend it enough. All of the books I'd recommend, as far as like middle grade, 100% rules. I absolutely loved it. And then the Librarian of Auschwitz, I'd recommend to like everyone, like YA and up, whether they're into fantasy or mysteries or romances. I'd recommend it across the field. I absolutely love the book. And so yeah, that was my middle grade wrap up, and I will see you guys in the next one.